Okay, so I'm gonna do this VOD review pretty quickly here, and just kind of voice my thoughts as we go. So I think stage one hold here is probably fine. I'd probably sell Elise here and hold Ziggs, or sorry, I would sell Ari and hold Ziggs Elise. Yeah, just because I don't really like holding Ari on stage. I don't think it's very strong, especially when you don't have like a Zoe 2 that you're playing around. And um, in the case that you do play around, in the case that you do play around Portal Opener, I think it's a lot more likely that you hit an Elise 2, or you can play around like Blitzcrank Ziggs. If you don't hit the Portal Opener, it leaves you a little more open in general to sell your 2 costs and buy 1 costs. And yeah, I mean, I probably would have sold the Ari again here. And the main reason is because although Ari is a scholar, once you have this Poppy and once you have this Poppy and Blitzcrank, most of the time here you're gonna want to play Witchcraft or Vanguard instead of Scholar, like for your level 4 and level 5 boards. So I wouldn't really worry about holding this Ari. Looking at augments here, these are all pretty ass. I would say maybe replication out of these 3. I mean, they're all pretty bad. Keepers is bad for AP. Grab bag is pretty bad for AP, and like replication can give you direction here. Like if you get Bobo, kind of just play towards Karma or Callista. There's a lot of decent replication hits here. So I'd probably go replication out of these 3. Reroll left 2. Trade sector, champion delivery. I don't hate trade sector. I think I would reroll replication just to have another option. Just because I'm not really in love with replication, and with either Archangel Slam or Locket Slam, you can kind of make a reasonable board here, especially when you're playing through Portal, right? Like if you use your trade sector rolls to hit a 2-star Portal board, you're pretty likely to streak. And it gives you another option, so that's like the main reason why I would do it. I mean, ideally you don't want to click on trade sector either, so you just have another option, but I felt the augments are relatively close in value, which is why I like rerolling replication. And then taking the rod there is completely fine as well. I think I would definitely take rod. Yeah, I like rod. And then mainly when you take rod here, you're kind of thinking about playing like Rise or Karma. I mean, it looks like the planner suggests that we're trying to play Rise here. I just don't think Rise is like a very strong comp, right now. So, and maybe like a comp selection issue. I would say you should almost never try to just be like angling Rise on stage 2. It's because the comp just isn't that strong. It's kind of something that you have to fall into, in my opinion. Like if you just have a really amazing spot for it. That being said, this is actually a pretty good spot for it. It's an Econ Galaxy. I mean, Infinite Roz is always a great spot for it. I would never slam this Death Cap. Okay, so I'm glad we don't slam Death Cap, because you kind of need you need like Morello and then Spark, or I would never slam this Death Cap. Yeah, this is probably a mistake. Yeah, you really, really need Morello and Spark here in Rise. And basically, if you don't have Burn and Shred, your Rise will never do any damage. Especially against this player who you're pretty much always beating. I would just not slam. Coming up on Carousel here. Also, Death Cap plus Archangel is kind of anti-synergy. And yeah, I just think you never lose this fight anyways, and so it's just sort of a waste of slam. It also kills, your good components. Here, on the... I guess you can't really play any of these, but if you did actually have something to hold here, I would definitely hold it, and pre-level on a streak. But yeah, there's nothing to hold in that shop to play. I mean, yeah, now the problem is the items are going to be very awkward. Well, we end up getting Tier, which is extremely good. To hopefully make Shiv, but it's kind of a problem that yeah, we have no Morello, no Spark. Okay, yeah, Nico's probably strongest unit. Major game, it's always a take here. I would definitely tier Soraka if you're gonna tier something. Yeah. Okay, position looks alright in all of these fights. Like you just want the unit with Crown Guard to be taking damage, right? Because of the way like Crown Guard is an 8-second shield, so the shield will wear off if it's not taking damage. Yeah, Wukong's probably stronger than Nico. But yeah, I think this Death Cap Slam is probably gonna end up biting us in the ass later into the game, and we're probably gonna end up with a problem where we either don't have anti-heal or don't have shred. That being said, I don't think this Death Cap was a difference in any of the fights, and that like if we ended up slamming a Spark or Merlo off Carousel, we would have won the last fight. And then I don't think it was a fight difference on 2-3, so I don't think it made any difference. But having said that, it's definitely worth it to slam any item if it allows you to 5-streak. Like if this Death Cap was the diff for 5-streaking, you're always slamming Death Cap. Okay, full Spark out of thin air, or Morello Shiv. Okay, I mean we got Morello Shiv out of thin air, which is extremely extremely lucky. I would just level here. Yeah, okay. Level. Blaster is probably strongest board. Blaster. Shiv. I just slam Morello. Yeah, I mean, probably would have Morello'd my way, but also, yeah, not using removers, so on neutrals every round, if you have exactly one remover, you always want to use it before neutrals because of the system change that they made. And the system change that they made is that on every neutrals, if you don't already have a remover, you will get a remover, right? So if you use this remover here, I would probably remove a Soraka, but you could also remove a Galio. Actually, maybe Galio's... I think I would remove a Galio, sorry, not Soraka. I would remove a Galio, and basically you're guaranteed to get one for free if you use it, and then before any neutral round. And as it stands right now, you're basically getting no value out of this, right? Because you get a refreshed one after Krogs if you don't have one. Alright, so yeah, I would Morello my Hui just because it's very sellable. I think Hui is more sellable than Vex here because there's probably some world where you want to play 5 mage, and it's also a better Morello holder, so there's no real reason not to. Definitely would lean Unify here of these 3 augments. And you can't really take Pandora's on... You basically just want to click something that gives you combat, right? Because you're on a streak, yeah. So Unified. Pretty simple choice. And then yeah, see, so like you end up, this is just -1 remover for no reason. Yeah, strongest is Chrono. I would probably slam this Bloodthirster if you ever think it makes a fight diff. Like the cloak kind of makes some good items, but the sword never really becomes anything good here. So, I would definitely be willing to slam it if I ever think it makes a difference. Just because the sword is so worthless here, and I mean BT is a pretty bad frontline item, but you have to make something with the sword, and it's very likely I think that the sword actually becomes a BT later anyways. Just because it's really hard to kill. You pretty much have to kill into like Giant Slayer or BT in this comp. So I think BT is actually better than Shojin, since like if you're playing Force Scholar, your units basically get a better Shojin. And so I would really refrain from trying to play around Shojin Scholars. Streak. I mean, I'm gonna assume this game probably goes wrong on 4-2 since this early game looks pretty AFK, not really that many decisions to make. Stone Plate. Yeah, seems fine. Stone Plate. Strongest item you can make right here. When you're on streak, you pretty much always just want to be taking strongest item. Here Bard 2 is definitely stronger than wait, so you get Dizzy here. I would just play, whoa. So I think the strongest board was just Bard over Rumble. Eh. Bard 2 over Rumble. Maybe not, actually. Well, actually, it definitely is Bard 2 over Rumble. I mean, it's just Vanguard, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's just Bard 2 over Rumble. Or I guess in this case, it would just be Nami over the Rumble here, and that would be your strongest. But yeah, I mean, also if this Bard is going on your board, it definitely needs to be... You definitely need to make this Bard 2 if you want to play the Bard on your board. And I would make every upgrade on a streak. You should definitely make this Bard. I think strongest board here is probably... it's probably drop Nami. Drop Nami for Bard, drop Rumble for Hecarim, and then tether Hecarim. I think Hecarim tether is probably better than Kench on that board. I mean, 5 traits. 5 traits Kench is what, 100 health on your board? Maybe it's Kench tether because you only have items on 2 units. I guess you could sort something, but yeah, I would probably play Rumble over or not Rumble over Nami, Bard over Nami, Hecarim over Rumble, and then tether Kench, and I think that's the strongest here. I'm not really sure why we're not considering Hecarim at all. Seems very odd to me. I'm not sure if that's just dizziness or what the case is, but in 10 streak, so I mean this spot should never be worse than like a 4th. Okay, I mean selling all of this means that we're going to transition next turn, which is fine. I think it's fine at 4-1 it here. Okay, I guess we chose to stop rolling here. One thing I will say about like your transitioning, you need to not be buying like these random units that you're never gonna play, because Ezreal Smolder are never coming in here, right? I'm not sure. A lot of people have this habit where they buy random units because they think it helps their shop odds, which I mean technically it does, but it's very 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 minimal positive effect. And you'll oftentimes have the very very negative effect of it just making your transition a lot slower, because you have to think about what units to sell and what units to bench, and like you just have a bunch of random units on your bench which your brain is kind of just getting stuck by, and like yeah, your brain will just randomly be thinking about these units when you should be pivoting your board. I mean in this case I think you chose to stop on 30 after hitting a rise, which I think is fine. I mean, I would assume most of the time you're not contested. We kind of didn't really scout this game, or like didn't do very much scouting, so I would assume, I would assume you're just not contested because you're playing Rise. But when you're not contested, you want to roll the majority of your gold after your opponents, because, like for example, in this patch where it's a very 4-cost dominated patch, a lot of people, like the guy you just fought, Tagio, is playing Kalista, so they're taking all of the Kalistas out of pool, and then I guess in your case you need Rakan to play Rise usually. But Rakan 2 is like not as important as Taric 2 and Rise 2. So yeah, usually you just want to roll after them if they're taking out the 4 costs you don't need from the pool. So if you're uncontested and everyone's playing different comps that use the same like the same cost unit that you use, it's better to roll after them because they're taking all the units you don't need out of the pool. Here, I mean, playing Rise is just little buddies. Oh, whoa. Wait, explosive, and we're going fast 9. Wait, the thing about this is like, I actually don't hate this line. And the thing is, I'm like 100% sure like this is a correct line to take in theory. It's just a harder line to take than Little Buddy's Rise, but this line makes a lot of sense to me. in the fact that you're really rich, your board isn't bad. Yeah, actually, I like explosive quite a lot. It's gonna be very interesting to see this level 9 pivot though, because I think that's the main hard part of it, and I'm gonna be interested in seeing like what level 9 board we choose to play because I think I mean Fast 9 has been pretty solved, but I don't think it's publicly solved. Like I don't think the majority of people know how it's solved. So we'll see. Okay, this is you roll. I think you rolled, but that was an insane shot. Oh yeah, this is a kind of a weird roll. I'm not sure what this roll is for. I mean, the roll ends up being amazing because you hit Milio Ari, but like I'm kind of confused by the roll here. It doesn't make very much sense because when you take explosive growth, the whole point is you're in fast 9, right? So you're just gonna basically sack these 4 rounds, and then on 5-1 you're gonna go level 9, or on 5-2 if you're healthy. And so rolling doesn't make too much sense just because, yeah, you're rolling on level 8 here when usually you just save your gold to roll on level 9. That being said, obviously if you hit, Milio Ari, it's very good. Yeah, so if you're taking explosive growth here, this is always just a sack and then go fast 9. If you want to roll on 8, you should always just take little buddies, because the problem with this line, or the reason this line isn't good, is because you'll get into spots where, I mean, if you take explosive growth and then roll to 0 here, hoping that you hit, and then you can then go 9 after you hit, what happens is if you miss on your roll down, like if you don't hit Rise 2, you don't hit Kench 2, or Rakan 2, or Tarek 2, or whatever your front line is going to be, you'll just end up stuck with, like, your explosive growth will pre-level you, like, 50 gold, so you'd be, like, 50 out of 76 to level 9. And then you'll just be stuck on level 8 with, like, 50 out of 76 to level 9 and, like, 25 gold in an unupgraded board. And your gold augment will essentially have done nothing, because you won't be able to go 9 and you won't have an upgraded board. So you'll just be stuck there in limbo. Versus, like, if you had little buddies here and you miss on your roll down, your gold augment will be like your Rise gets 400 health and and 40% attack speed, or whatever little buddies is giving your Rise, and your Milio gets like the same thing, right? And it's just one of the best combat augments in this comp. So if you're gonna roll down to 0 here, you have to be clicking little buddies. This explosive growth is like a mandatory sack until 5-1. Like once you click explosive growth on 4-2, you pretty much always just want to wait until 5-1 to play the game, because yeah, if you roll down here and you don't go 9, you basically get no value out of your gold augment. Right, because you're rolling before your gold augment does anything, because your gold augment does something once per turn for 4 turns, right? So if you roll on turn 0, your gold augment is doing nothing. And yeah, this is just a strange line to take. Okay, so we're planning the level 9 board. Yeah, I mean this is just like super over rolling. Yeah, I mean even at this point, you should really just consider stopping rolling, just because. I mean I'm not sure why we're rolling to. Are you just rolling to see charm? Okay, so you roll to charm. Yeah, I wouldn't. Generally on stage 4, it doesn't make as much sense to roll for charm, especially when you're extremely high HP. Usually when you're rolling for charm, it's when you're low HP and you want to get placements. But when you're in a spot where you want to go fast 9, it's just too expensive to roll for a charm, right? Like you're rolling 3 times here to see a charm, which is 6 gold, and then most of the time the charm, or not most of the time, but sometimes the charm won't do anything. And then of the times the charm does something, a lot of times it'll be too expensive to click, right? Like if you see Earthquake here, you can't click Earthquake just because you don't want to pay 5 gold for the effect here when you're 88 HP. Like when you're 88 HP and you're in a spot where your board is stable and you're really rich and you have a spot to go 9, you should always just, you know, be thinking about how to win the game. And I mean, you're just spending a bunch of unnecessary gold on 8 when your augment is basically, you know, your augment is plus 50 gold, right? It's telling you to go 9. So if you, I mean, it's plus 44 gold, right? So if you go back to your 4-2 spot, when you click Explosive Growth here, this is like, Explosive Growth is probably how, like, the vast majority of top players would, like, click this. Like, this is, they would just click Explosive Growth here. The thing is, everyone would just click Explosive Growth and not roll a single time until 5-2 or 5-1. And then they would just go level 9 and sell all the scholars and basically just play around Arcana and Arcana, Milio, Zerath backline duo carry. And you play like Diana, Morgana, Milio, Zerath, all the Arcana units. And then you have a flex slot, which can be like Rakan or something. Rakan or Bard. And then you Arcana your Tom Kench, and it's like you have your legendary board. Your Milio is printing items to all your 2-star legendary units, and then you have Arcana Tom Kench for like the extra 400, 500 health on your board. And that's basically the level 9 board that people, like, that's like the standard level 9 board that people try and play. Which you have an amazing spot for it here, but once you kind of just get stuck through all this rolling, you're basically just making yourself poorer and poorer, and if you notice, like, your board is never getting any better. I mean, the one roll where you hit the million Ari, yes, your board obviously got better, but, like, you definitely need to stop rolling after you hit that. Okay, I mean, I think Redemption is probably a little better than Warmonks, but I don't think it's a big deal. Also, strongest board here is just Mordekaiser. You have a random Briar on your board, which isn't, I mean, sometimes it casts, sometimes it doesn't, but you have a 3-item Tom Kench with no Vanguard in, right? It's one more trait for your Arcana as well. And, like, the main point of having Briar in is so that you can feed it. So if you're not feeding your Briar, it's not really doing that much. But yeah, you hit Rise 2 here, which is, very lucky. And hopefully able to convert this Rise 2. But I mean, the thing is, like, as you see, you kind of hit the Rise 2, and then, you know, you ended up rolling all this gold, and you hit a Rise 2, and, like, you're still losing rounds anyways. I mean, obviously you're losing by less than you would if you know, were just sitting here on making 100 gold, but, you know, you have 60 gold instead of 100 gold. I mean, the other thing about Rise 2 is you always want to move off Rise 2 for Zerath 2 anyways as well. So, yeah, it's kind of not, Oh, also, when you're doing rolldowns, in terms of trums you want to buy, you basically want to click on any trum that gives you gold. And discount is just really, really broken. I mean, because, okay, if you think about what discount does, if you buy discount this turn with the Diana, it's literally 5 gold. So this shop slot literally says gain 5 gold, or gain 2.5 shops. Right, so discount is pretty much an insta-click every time you're rolling down. unless you're one life and you really need a combat charm, you should always be clicking discount. Like this charm is extremely strong. Because like if you look at your charms, right, basically you're not buying any of these charms, so it ends up being -1 shop slot every 2 shops, so you're losing 10% of your shops, and not essentially like, you're not able to click on like treasure party or any of these expensive charms either. So like you're kind of just going through them and never clicking on them. Also, yeah, this already needs to be in. About the scholar board. Okay, the things that are weird with this board are the generally accepted stronger scholar board is the preserver version. So it's generally better to be playing around like Rakan, Morgana, and Taric instead of Arcana. And then if you're playing around Arcana on like level 9, for example, because you can 2-star your legendaries, you just don't really want to be playing 4 Scholar. And you just kind of want to be playing around Xerath and Milio duo carry with the upgraded legendaries, which again is why like the rolling on 8 isn't very good, just because you would much rather play around Xerath 2 than Rise 2. Or play around like Milio 2 and Diana 2, just because you pretty much never want to be stuck on Rise if you're in a spot where you have infinite gold, right? You don't want to be stuck on Rise carry. You would much rather carry a legendary. I mean, that's kind of how the game is designed, right? The higher cost units need to be better, otherwise the game would just suck. Yeah, let me just... Yeah, so the last round you didn't even have a charm, right? So instead of having a charm that gave you 5 gold, and then also you got an extra shop slot every 2 slots, you ended up just not having a charm at all after the roll down. And yeah, you kind of end up in a spot here where you just don't have the money to hit your 2-star legendaries. And I mean, I think a lot of that is just because we spent a little bit too much gold rolling on 8 when you're in a spot to fast 9, you should just be like committed to the fast 9. Like roll on 8 into fast 9 is not good when you're playing from super high HP. Roll on 8 into fast 9 is usually a spot where it's like your spot is mediocre and you're rolling on 8 to try and stabilize, and then you hit your board really fast, and then you can go fast 9 because of how fast you hit your board. It's not because it's not because you rolled on you were in a spot where you could go fast 9 and then you decided to roll on 8 to 2-star your 4 cost before you went 9, if that makes sense. Like when you're rolling on 8 to go fast 9, it's out of necessity, not out of choice. Like if you have the choice, you should always just be going fast 9 and rolling on 9. Also, yeah, the Bard is kind of homeless here. Like you're playing Traitless Bard. We ended up selling the Ahri, but yeah, it's a little bit egregious to be sort of missing this Ahri at your level. I would say that, Traitless Bard instead of 4 Arcana Ahri is kind of a big miss. But yeah, I mean this is a decent board for like what you want to do. The problem is this, like if you showed me this board, I would always assume this board was from a spot where it was like a mediocre spot and they're playing Rise and then they get to 4-2 and the player is rolling on 4-2 and then like they roll to 0 to hit Rise 2, Tom Kench 2 and then stabilize enough to go 9. Right? I mean, obviously, like, without looking at the augments, because the augments kind of give it away. But that's what I would assume happens. Just because you almost never see... Like, if you watch Setsuko or Dish Soap or Sojo or anyone play Fast 9, they're never playing Fast 9 around Rise, right? And that's just how... that's just how it always is. If you're going Fast 9, you're always just playing around 5 costs. And so it's just kind of awkward that we're playing around, like, 4 Scholar or 4 cost carry on our Fast 9 board. And kind of wasted too much gold on level 8 to roll for a board that, you kind of fit your board. I mean, you don't 2-star your Millie or you don't 2-star your Diana, but Like, I don't think Diana 2 is saving this board. Um, I mean, Milio 2, like, maybe you'll win a few more rounds, but you're probably still bot 4 off Milio 2. And that's just because, you know, you can't click on, like, replication plus explosive growth to go fast 9 and then play around, you know, these units, which are just not that good. Okay, and then you kind of pivot into Preservers here, which I guess was why, maybe mentally you were holding onto the bar a little bit too long, because you intended to plan on pivoting into Preservers, but you know it's still a mistake. At least if that's the plan, you should just be holding. You should just be playing the Ari on your board, right? But I think the egregious part mainly is just like this 4-2 decision where where you know you take explosive, which is great. I think explosive is a good take here. But yeah, like the rolling here I think is really bad. You just roll way too many times on 8 here. Like you don't need Rise 2, you don't need to stabilize your board. Like you scam this guy on Rise 1, and then your other fights you all lose anyways, even on like the boards you ended up rolling for. Which is just I mean that's just how it's gonna be when you kind of take a bunch of econ augments to play a mediocre comp. You kind of just need to be fast 9 here and playing for Milio Zerath, and not for Scholar Rise. Yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions about the like the fast 9 comp or like how you're supposed to play, just let me know. There's something else I was gonna talk about. Oh yeah, the charm thing. Yeah, and then on like your roll downs. Let me see your 4-2 roll down. Yeah, you should just basically stick to clicking any charm that says, you know, that says give you money in any sense. Like any charm that gives you more money when you're rolling down is good, and most of the expensive combat charms are pretty bad on stage 4, and you can kind of check that if you want to look at charm stats yourself, or you know, I guess you could also play by feel and just figure it out that clicking on the charms that do not give you money in stage 4, you always feel pretty poor and don't really make your money. Like don't really have enough money to hit. But yeah, like dice roll here is fine, but skipping discount is pretty egregious on 5-1. I think that's about it.